Welcome to the Brokers Open podcast.
Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by our friends at Palm Media. Palm Media is a boutique digital marketing company built for realtors by realtors. They help agents and teams dominate a target market with specific, tailored strategies. Everything from video, chatbots, landing pages, Facebook ads, database management, and coaching. And oh my gosh, it is way more affordable and simple than you could ever imagine. Call now for 100% free strategy session, whether you have a budget or not. Dr. Ben, my good friend, will make sure that you are heading in the right direction, building your presence online, or flat out crushing your competition. Before you spend a dime on marketing, door knocking, or sending out postcards, call Palm Media, 813-765-7706. 813-765-7706. Or click the link in the description below. Manifest your paradise.
What are we talking about today?
Listing appointments, right? So we've threatened to talk about this several times in the podcast, and some of the people that we've had sit down, they're a boss at how they do it. They're very consistent in how they do it. So I'd like for us to touch on it today, and just go over some ideas. Not saying, hey, this is what you need to do with your listing appointment.
Yeah.
But hey, here's some ideas that might help you elevate your success with the listing appointment.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And so hopefully the people out there can get a lot out of this that'll help them get those couple of more listings a year that they're on those appointments are going on. So
That's a good point. I think the most glaring thing that people need to realize when it comes to listing appointments, especially in real estate, is you need to be yourself. And so use what we say or don't use it, because really the genuine authenticity of the realtor going in and doing their thing in the listing appointment is probably one of the most important aspects of
I completely agree. So I use this, so of course I'm from Georgia, so everything's a damn story like we talk about all the time, right? So if you advertise, as an example, if you advertise, I'm Matt, I'm the number one agent with, voted by an independent lab, and I'm sitting there with my dog, right? Mm-hmm. My dog he's not a lab, right? He's an Australian, mini Australian Shepherd, most badass dog ever. Shout out to Griff. But let's say that it's a lab, right? And I put that on all my postcards, and I send that out, and I'm putting that on my Facebook, and I'm putting that all over the place. And I walk to the front door, and I knock on the front door for my listing appointment. The door swings open, a dog jumps up on me, and I push the dog off of me. Right? People feel like if what was advertised to them doesn't show up, that you lied.
Yeah.
And sometimes they might not even know it. Right. So if you're in a suit in your pictures and you show up in jeans and a t-shirt, something doesn't match, right? So one of the biggest things I would say to start with is make sure that what you advertised, what other people, if it's a referral, the way that people referred you, make sure you have a conversation with the person that referred you. Don't just say, oh yeah, thanks, I'll get in touch with them. Call them up out of the blue.
That's right.
And say, I talked to Billy. Go ahead and have a conversation. How do you know them? How did you meet? Have a conversation with the person that's referring. Understand the advertising medium that they got you from.
Correct.
So that when you show up, you can actually be who you're supposed to be.
Right.
Whenever you knock on the front door.
Right.
Have a dog biscuit in your pocket instead of pushing the dog off you. Right. Because they're going to want what was advertised to them to show up to the front door. I think that would be a first step in most listing appointments.
I look at listing appointments in 3 different phases, and it's pre-listing appointment, mid-listing appointment, and post-listing appointment. And
Agreed.
You can use whatever verbiage you want there. But I would like to, since we kind of break it down that way, I would like for us to start with the pre-listing appointment and those types of things that go on. So let's start there. Pre-listing appointment.
Yeah. So when you get the lead, and we're not going to get into the vocabulary conversation about what a lead is and a prospect and all that kind of stuff. Whole different conversation. Let's say that this is somebody that is ready, willing, and able, or you think is ready, willing, and able. We always want to pre-qualify them. Mm-hmm. We're always going to have a detailed conversation about what their motivation is before we show up at the front door.
Right.
Okay. So sometimes agents get really excited. If it's the only piece of business they have going on, so let me caution everybody out there. If it's the only piece of business that you have going on, you're probably going to deal with it in an inconsistent manner because you're going to put too much pressure on that one thing that's happening.
I've been so guilty of that before.
So you have to have a pattern. You got to have some consistency, and that consistency starts with making sure you're getting those answers on the front end, right? Mm-hmm. So why are you moving? Tell me a little bit about the house. Why did you purchase the house yourself? What is its most defining characteristic? How do you like it? Is it an investment? all of these conversations, and you can go to everything from, Brian Buffini's page to Mike Ferry's page to Tom Ferry's page. Any coach that you talk about, you can get it from us. Comment and we'll send one out to you. There's tons of different qualification scripts that you can use.
Yeah.
Okay. So whenever we talk about scripts, sometimes that scares people off, right? So the reality is, we've talked about this. Everybody has a script. I really don't care what their script is. I really don't care what script people use, as long as they're being consistent in asking the right questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if they're asking ahead of time, when do you have to be out of the house? Tell me a little bit about, what your main motivation for moving is. Tell me a little bit about if you're asking all of those questions ahead of time, when you sit down, you can actually be prepared.
Yeah.
You don't want to be sitting at the table and find all of this stuff out, right?
No, it's the wrong time. Then you're just trying to pack a 2-hour meeting into 30 minutes, and it's just
Right.
not going to work.
Right.
Yeah.
And you end up missing something, and they're sitting there, and you didn't ask a question ahead of time. You didn't hit it whenever you were sitting at the table, and it was their main motivation, and they're like, we just didn't click.
Right.
I think agents a lot of times run into the thought process that there was one defining thing that happened in the appointment that is what caused them to not get the listing.
Yeah.
And I think that they honestly believe a lot of the time it's the seller that said, okay, they said that, I didn't like it, I'm not going to use them.
Yeah.
I don't think that happens a lot of the time.
I would
could
agree.
be wrong.
No, I agree.
I think that there's a combination of things.
Yeah.
The seller, a lot of times, especially 2 out of the 4 personalities, they get a feeling about you.
Correct.
If you ask the questions ahead of time, all you're doing is facilitating that right feeling when you sit down, because you've had conversations with them. So the other part of the pre-qualification process, make sure that it's not just about the questions that you ask. More importantly, it's about the answers that they give.
Yeah.
Listen to them, write things down, take notes. When you sit down in front of them, you want to be able to say, when we talked on the phone, you said this, and I kind of noticed that, you got a little bit excited when you talked about getting closer to home in Houston with your family. Tell me a little bit about that.
Be a really good listener.
Absolutely. And don't just hear to respond.
Right.
Hear to understand.
Correct.
Listen to understand, right? So I think the step one in the pre-qualification process is absolutely have some type of pre-qualification pattern that you go through.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like for that initial phase to be 90% business, 10% jovial fun, right? So there's a little bit of your personality coming out, but I would really rather you save, and this is what we'll delve into when we go into it when you're actually doing the listing presentation, but I would rather you be a little bit more professional and business-like during that qualification phase and pre-phase, and then delve into some of the personality stuff as to why they choose you, because a lot of companies and a lot of agents are going to have similar marketing techniques and similar things, but really when it comes down to it, sellers pick a certain agent because they like the person and they trust the person. So going back to the pre-listing phase, absolutely the qualification, whether that's over the phone, whether that's in person prior to the meeting, definitely have those qualifications. The second thing that I like to do after having this conversation, knowing we're going to be setting the appointment for Wednesday at 1 p.m., is as soon as I get off the phone, I have all the information that I need, is I will actually take the listing presentation that either my team has, I have created, or my company has created, and I'll also write a handwritten note in there. So I have all of my listing presentation in there that says all the fun stuff that we're going to be marketing your house with, yada, yada, yada. I don't really want to get into the marketing of the stuff in this talk. I don't think that that's necessary.
100% agree.
Write the handwritten note. We talked on Sunday, our meeting's on Wednesday. Can't wait to see you Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Please call me if anything changes or if you have any questions or concerns, and then give them the listing presentation. The reason I like you to mail or overnight your listing presentation is because when you're sitting in front of those people at Wednesday at 1 o'clock, you're not going over the marketing materials. They've already read that. They've digested it. They've compared it to other agents that are going out for the same job.
That's exactly right.
And then you're off to a really good start.
Absolutely. Some people have them couriered over there, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
That's a
great idea. I never thought of that.
Yeah, so some people have it couriered if somebody knocks on the door and says, hey, Matt wanted me to make sure that you have this. So they also do that for what it's worth. They'll have somebody first thing in the morning go to 10 expireds
Yeah.
and then drop the other things off, and they'll have an expired packet that the courier drops in. So a couple of good ideas. But you hit on something. I love that you brought up the handwritten card and the confirmation, because again, that's who's going to show up at the front door, right? If you're that kind of person that really wants to connect with them at a high and low level, absolutely, that's how you want to handle it. So I think if you want to take your service to another level and you're truly a sphere of influence building type of person, right? Because we've got all these other buckets that we get business from, but we're constantly pouring those other buckets into our sphere.
Into the top of the funnel.
Right. So if you're doing that, in my opinion, you hang up the phone with the person that you just pre-qualified.
Right.
You write the note. You get everything ready for the courier or the overnight. Overnight's a great way of doing it. You get all of that stuff ready. And then the next thing you do, in my opinion, is you pick up the phone or you text, whatever's appropriate, the person that gave you the referral, if that's how it came across.
Yeah, that's a great way to.
And say, hey, I just wanted to let you know, I just talked to the Joneses, absolutely wonderful people. We're going to meet later this week. I don't think you get into any of the details. You certainly don't start talking about personal things or anything like that. But what you're basically doing, so take a step back, if you can take yourself outside of real estate for just a second. If you refer someone to someone else, you've extended your trust to that person.
Yeah.
If you want to feel comfortable with the trust extension that you gave them, you have to feel like you know what's going on, right? So if you referred someone to me, and then the next thing that you hear about it is from that person saying, I listed the property, you really referred it to me. You created that relationship, and then you're hearing about it from the other person.
Yeah.
That's kind of like I left you out of the loop.
Correct.
Right? So if you say, hey, Matt, these are the Joneses, if you would give them a call and everything, I call and I talk to the Joneses. Let's say the Joneses hate me or they love me. It doesn't make any difference. I'm going to follow back up with you. And I'm going to say, Justin, thanks again for introducing me to the Joneses. I really hope that we can work together with them. We do have an appointment set when the property is coming on the market. I'll make sure you know. And now, so spoiler here. Here's part of what we're going to do with this. Okay. One is we want to do the right thing for referring. Two is we want to take a chance to build some business.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to go back to Justin. And I'm going to say, hey, Justin, the Joneses house just came on the market, or it's coming on the market. Right before it comes on the market, I'm going to reach back out to you. In between now and later this week, now and Friday, do me a favor. If you can think of anyone that's interested in buying right now, that might be interested in the Joneses property, when I call and tell you a little bit about the Joneses property and what we're going to do with it, if you would, have that information ready for me. That person has already proven that they want to refer, right?
And they're already a good source.
And so now so if they don't want to do that, they're going to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
But if they didn't want to do that, guess what they wouldn't have done?
Yeah.
They wouldn't have done it already.
Right.
So when you call them and they say, no, Matt, I've been busy, I really can't think, I'm going to be like, absolutely, I completely understand. Do me a favor, let's keep it in mind, because you and I want the Joneses property to sell.
Sure.
Now I've teamed up with you on this versus you just handing it to me and then finding out whenever it closed, which is a horrible way of doing things.
In the secondary effects when you do something like that are immeasurable, because the moment that you start cluing in the person who gave you the referral, all of a sudden it's like you wouldn't believe how Matt's already started on this project for me. So not only is he saying that the property is going to be going on the market at X, Y, and Z, he's given me all of your details and has asked me to be an advocate for the house. That gets back to the seller.
That's right.
And the seller is like, well, we clearly chose the right person.
Right.
Clearly.
So what's the seller going to say? So you're going to be talking to the seller. Hey, I heard you met with Matt and everything. He wants me to get some names together, some people that might be interested in the property. Seller's going to be like, holy crap.
Whoa.
This dude's on it.
Yeah.
Some sellers are going to say, well, you should give me those names directly. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
But we're not worried about that, right?
Yeah.
If they're going to do that, you can't stop that person from being that person.
Right.
So now all of a sudden, both of those people understand their job in the relationship with you from a business perspective is to refer.
Right.
And you're going to communicate with them. You're going to take good care of them. All of that.
Yeah.
Right.
That's awesome.
So from a pre-listing, there's a lot more to the pre-listing point, but we don't want to beat too much of that drum, right? Let's move it. Let's dig a little bit farther into some of this.
All right. So we talked about pre-qualifying the person. We've talked about getting together your materials and a personal note, sending that over ahead of time. Okay. So now we're down to crunch time. You've already been the professional. You've already ask the select questions that you need to get the information. Before you go on that appointment, before you receive this call, I think it's so important, and this is something that a lot of people overlook. Especially in today's day and age where we're getting our leads from, a lot of agents rely on, okay, I got a lead at 123 Harborview Lane, and now I got to study the market. Now I got to run the comps. Now I got to figure out what this place is worth. When really the whole thing should have been done day in, day out, every single day. You should know your comps.
I'm glad you brought that up. At 100% agree. I'm so glad you brought that up, and you're fantastic at this. You stay on top of what's going on with the market all the time, so that there's no surprises. And we've touched on this a little bit, but I want to dig into that. I want to dig into that part a little bit because I do think it's mission critical.
Mm-hmm.
So, you talk to people in the golf course, right?
Yep.
They ever ask you about prices on houses?
All the time.
Did they ever say, "Hey, did this one go under contract? Did this happen? Did that?" Right. So if you want them to look at you as the expert, if you want them to refer you to somebody else.
Yeah.
So, I always kind of knew that. I always had my head wrapped around it and everything, but never to the depth that you talk about, that I think is absolutely 100% correct.
Yeah.
They don't catch you flat-footed.
No.
Right? So now whenever you show up to the property, all you've done is, instead of the real big picture about the neighborhood, what's going on, you're really centering in on just those houses. So you're not spending 12 hours on a CMA, right?
That's right.
And you're also not going in with an automated valuation. Do you know what the A in Zillow stands for? It's accuracy.
I like that. But
I've said that in like 2 podcasts. I think I'm going to go for a record of about 5 of them.
I still laugh the same at it.
I know, right?
No, but I can't stress it enough. Like, I really, to my agents, I want my agents spending an hour a day on the market and understanding that whole bit, because of that dynamic of when a person asks you, have you seen this go on the market? Have you seen this go under contract? Why did this one sell at this price, but this one didn't? You need to know these things. And if you don't know them, don't lie about them, because they're going to see right through it. But the reason that I caught on to that so quickly in my career was I needed an edge over people who had more experience than I did, because people looked at me as a young person who maybe had some gusto and some hustle to them, but people never looked at me as a true source until I started getting those swords in my bag, right? And so,
completely agree.
When people ask me questions about certain markets, I bet you I got a pretty damn good answer for you. And if I don't, then I don't. And that's okay, and I'm okay with that. But if they're asking me a question about where we live, like if you said on the golf course about the house on Ponce de Leon that just went on the market for $360, what do you think about the valuation? Yeah, I think it's a good price. I think we need to look at the inspection report, though, and yada, yada, yada. But before you ever go on that listing appointment, before you ever even call to pre-qualify, because I know agents, as soon as they get a lead, okay, hop on the phone. All right, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what's going on?
I need to get out there as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's all good and great. But what happens if on that call, the guy asks about the neighborhood, asks about what do you think about the house, what do you think about the price?
Absolutely.
You are effed.
Yeah, that's right. You're toast.
Yeah. So know the market.
So let's say that for some crazy reason, because you can tell we're passionate about this, right? So let's say for some crazy reason that people out there don't believe us that this is this important. Here's what I want you to do, a little bit of homework. Go talk to any top performing agent, 5 years or more, that has dominated a specific market, and go ask them a question about something that just came on the market, or ask them if market knowledge is important. If they have been consistently great in a market, they know that market. Yeah. They know the floor plans in there. They know when it's sold. They can tell who bought it 2 houses back and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If for whatever reason you can't take, you don't want to take our word, or you need some additional validation, walk up to the person in your office that is dominating a certain market and ask them about that market. It will blow your mind how much they know about it.
And if you don't worry about it. Don't look at this whole thing as a discouragement, but you need to work on it every day from here on out.
Take it serious.
You can customize your specific MLS to spit out exactly the market that you want to look at every day. So
get your hot sheet.
Yeah.
Look at your hot sheet. Know it. So whenever you're sitting there at the table, here's the other thing which speaks to exactly what you're talking about. Whenever I'm having a discussion with an agent about making sure that they make the most of their listing appointment, you don't want to sit down at the table and the seller to have intel about properties that you don't know anything about.
Yeah, okay? And you got to be careful about that nowadays, because the consumer is way more savvy than they've ever been.
Right. So here's the big picture suggestion of how to deal with this specifically with the house. don't just go get an automatic valuation. Don't go do your quick CMA and the MLS. Don't go to your,
That's right.
whatever your report is and get 3 of them and print them out and look at those. Okay. You have to roll up your sleeves and dig in. You've got to make some changes. You might only use comps that are 6 months old because you have enough.
Right.
Don't disregard the ones that are 12 months old. Don't throw away the ones that are 16 months old. Don't throw away the ones that the house is a little bit bigger or it's on the other side of a main highway. Don't say, well, an appraiser would never use that, so I'm not going to look in that neighborhood.
That's right.
They might have a great friend that lives in that neighborhood and just sold their house. You want to be able to discuss things that are within a couple of miles of the house, depending on your market. A couple of miles of the house, year and a half into it, you want to have a good idea about all of it, although you might not use most of that information. You just don't want to be caught flat-footed when you're sitting there in the appointment.
Yeah.
Don't give them a reason to disqualify you, which is what we were talking about before.
Totally
that
agree.
one thing.
Yeah, totally agree. So, all right. So we've got the pre-listing appointment down pretty good there, right?
Right.
All right. So it's Wednesday at 1:00. We're going into the appointment. Obviously, the dress and how you present yourself should probably go without saying. So I don't even want to go down that road. I mean, I think that might be
Agreed.
silly of us. I think that the listing appointment, the goal of the listing appointment is for them to truly see who you are as a person and can they trust you. Okay?
Agreed.
People want to work with and people want to be around people that they like. Okay? So,
Agreed.
and I can promise you ahead of time to this listing appointment, these people have Googled you, they've looked at your Facebook, they've looked at all these different things, these different avenues to see who is Matt Vi, right?
Absolutely.
And sometimes
You know it.
if you're sending that packet out ahead of time, if I have this person's email as well, what I'll go ahead and do is I will shoot them information on me, my LinkedIn profile, maybe some Realtor.com articles about me, whatever it might be,
Absolutely.
that help reinforce who I am as a person. And then once I'm in the appointment, okay, let's get down to it, right?
So that's a great point. You hit on this earlier, and I think that's a great way of tying these together. The pre-qualification that you do is really when you gather your data.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be gathering their data then.
Mm-hmm.
When you're sitting down at the table, it's not that you don't want to review the data. It's not that you don't want to have real discussions whenever you're sitting there, but that's really the opportunity face to face to build rapport.
Yeah.
The only way that you're going to do it, what is rapport? Rapport is liking people who are like themselves, right? So you want to find some commonality. You want to find a connection. You want to find, even if that connection, the only connection is to get them top dollar for the property and get it sold in the time frame that they want, even if that's the only connection between you, you need to know that when you're sitting at the table.
Right.
So ahead of time, you're gathering enough information so that whenever you sit down, you can build that rapport. If this thing is going to sell in 3 days, you don't have to have much rapport, right? If for whatever reason it's not going to sell in 3 days and you're positive that it's not going to sell in 3 days, you better deal with some rapport with these folks and better be able to have good conversations with them.
Quickly.
Because otherwise, Justin referred them to me. I called the Joneses. All of a sudden, the Joneses don't like me because I didn't spend time building rapport with them the way that they want. How does he feel about referring?
Yes, it's probably the last time I refer you.
Right. So, and he's going to hear that story. Me not at that cocktail party. The two of them are going to talk. And we have to have a good rapport in order for that to go the way it's supposed to, or I negatively impact my opportunity to get more business.
So the same way that a seller is going to be researching you and kind of trying to find out who you are, you need to be doing the same thing with the seller. So anytime that you go into a seller appointment, before you ever get into that listing appointment, you should be delved into exactly who these people are. I mean, the power of Google, the power of Facebook, the power of Instagram,
100%.
LinkedIn, all of those things, because the more that you know prior to getting into that listing appointment, the quicker you can build rapport. So, I mean, it could be as simple as having the same hobbies. It could be as simple as, my brother, also works at that same company, whatever it might be, but understand who you're working with before you get there.
Completely agree.
And 9 times out of 10, a listing appointment will start with some sort of tour of the house, right? Outside, inside. I have seen so many botched listing appointments by the agent going through there going, yeah, I'll just whip around. I'll be right back.
Right.
You probably lost the listing appointment right then.
Right.
I mean, the best way, just like you did in the pre-qualification phase, for you to get this listing appointment is to have this seller, the one who's making the decision, show you around the house.
Absolutely. 100%.
Because what you're going to
100%.
see is that person's going to take you around the house. that person is going to show you where they put their heart and soul. They're going to maybe show you why they're selling the house, because they don't really,
Absolutely.
the master bedroom and master bath are way too small.
Yep.
You're going to start to understand the pros and cons, and you're going to be able to regurgitate that to them when you sit back down. It's all about the listening and really seeing the obvious, but you don't see the obvious until you let the other person kind of take the lead.
Right, and you walk through them whenever you first walk in the house. I mean, you want to have a comfortable way of making sure that they explain to you what's going on with the house. So ask them, if you were showing this house to a buyer, tell me a little bit about, walk me through the house for just a second and tell me a little bit about the house. Why'd you purchase the house? What do you like about it? What, if it was a family member that was buying it, talk to me about that conversation, and then have them walk you through that house. So part of the reason why you want to do that, and this is something you probably want to jot down in your notes if you're taking notes right now.
Take notes.
Take notes. So at that point, if they have had the opportunity to walk through, and if you genuinely show them that you're listening, they're less likely to want to be around when it comes time to show somebody else the property.
Yes.
If you just blaze through the house really quickly, you leave, you get the listing, you leave, they're going to go, oh, you know what, did I really talk about the master, whatever, and did I this and did I that? And so the next thing you know, that seller's kind of trying to linger around at showings.
Yes.
They're kind of trying to tell you, oh,
What a good point.
the flyer that you print out didn't say the whatever and all that kind of stuff. You want to make sure you give them a chance to be heard about the house. Take the time, really listen. Do not cut that off at the pass. Do not hustle through that too fast. You're giving them the chance to present it to you, and then you're nicely going to say, that was your chance. Sit down. Let me do my job.
Correct.
You can't say, sit down, let me do my job, if they haven't had that chance to present that to you, because they don't feel like it's complete.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that they get that chance to feel like it's complete.
And take copious notes as you go around the house too. I mean, I'll put emphasis on certain areas. And what's interesting, especially in the luxury market, is I would say almost every agent in the luxury market is going to do listing agent a company, right? So they're always going to be there for the showing. So if you can regurgitate to the sellers before you ever get the listing that you're going to be showing the home the way that they would want it to be shown, all of a sudden you already have the notes, and it's like, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if you're choosing a listing agent today and you're going to be paying the fees that we're asking, it's because I am doing all of these things, right?
Right.
And so I can't stress that tour part of the listing appointment is so important to get right. And the only reason that I know this so well is because I have been on the other side and I have screwed them up personally. I've seen other agents screw them up. I've seen other agents get in their own way. This is a time for the seller to showcase their home, and you better be ready.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the time for them to explain to you why the house should sell.
Right.
That's also, and I know everybody knows this, but it might go without saying, but we'll say it because that's what we do here, right? So that's also the chance that they can come clean about some things.
Yes.
That's also the time that they need to speak up about stuff. So if you don't want to rush and sit down to the kitchen table and then have forgotten that the pool out of the water is draining really quickly. You want to take a minute to walk around. So you want those things to have the opportunity to come up so many times that if they're left there with their conscience just long enough as you're sitting there really taking notes and paying attention, there might be some disclosure things that come up that really needed to come up if you're going through the tour the way that you need to go through the tour.
Yeah.
So that's automatically going to happen if you allow it the time to happen. If you ignore it, if you skip over it, you're skipping over that opportunity for that to happen. That just causes problems for everybody. Contracts that fall apart, appraisal issues, home inspection stuff, blah, 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 right? So there's a lot of things that can happen. So that's the chance to kind of make that happen, right?
And it's also the time to showcase that you're a consultant. So when a seller chooses somebody, it's probably professionalism, trust, they like you, all of those things. But for you to be a consultant in these areas and saying, well, they're asking, what do you think? Or sometimes you need to chime in when you go back and sit down at that table and say, listen, if we really want to sell it within this time frame for this price, we do need to do a couple things. I think it might be time for a fresh coat of paint in that master bedroom, and I think it's time for us to depersonalize the hallways. We can't take back somebody's first impression of this home. So when people walk in, I want them to feel like this is their home that they're buying. I don't want them to feel like I'm buying the Smith's home because clearly they've made all these memories in it. So you need to be that consultant on that first initial drive, because if you're not, you're not really adding that value that makes you get picked.
You're being dishonest.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Or just ignorant.
Right. Yeah.
Or lazy. Whatever.
Right.
All the above.
Right. Yeah. If there's any intent behind it, that's dirtbag.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
agreed.
So again, you hit on a great point. So a lot of times the seller is going to say, "I want peak market value" when you sit down at the table, right? If you haven't walked through the house, you can't have the conversation that I'm about to have up on this. So,
No.
Mr. Seller, I completely understand that you want peak market value. In order to get peak market value, the home has to be in model ready, peak market condition.
Yeah.
A property does not get peak market value for a simple one thing that it's great at. It has to be collectively a whole bunch of things, because every house is going to be good at least one thing.
Yeah.
So if you want peak market value, the home has to be in peak market value condition.
Right.
So we just walked through the house, Mr. Seller, and you pointed out a couple of things to me that we might need to take a look at and approach them one of two ways. Either we can approach them from a value standpoint, or we can approach them from a let's bring it up to speed standpoint. I'm going to allow you to make that decision. I'll consult with you through that. I want you to make as much money as you possibly can because of my fee structure. The more money I can help you make, the more money I'm going to make.
Sure.
I want to be in this together. I want you to realize as much equity as possible.
Yeah.
If you haven't walked through the house, you're not going to be able to have that conversation with them.
Totally.
You're going to sit down with them and you're going to say, "Oh, well, that sounds great. Let's. I don't know why your house wouldn't sell for that, right?"
Right.
So you have to make sure that you have that part of the conversation. So we get to the kitchen table, right? When we get to the kitchen table, we're there with the decision makers. Okay, and we're going to review some things. There's things that we want to make sure that are differentiators between us. And I might have mentioned this in a previous podcast, but this is a perfect opportunity to mention this. So I was sitting down with probably I don't know. There's probably 20 top team leaders. Okay, we were all sitting around the table. We're kind of coaching them. I'm kind of coaching them through how do you up your business? How do you take it to the next level? How does your team look at things the same way that you do? Right. So I said, this is what I need you to do. I need you to write down on a piece of paper the 3 things that you do that is better than everybody else on why a seller should use you versus anyone else. I need you to write those 3 things down on a piece of paper. It needs to be what is uniquely you that you do better than anybody else.
Right.
So they all wrote it down. I said, okay, let's start over here. We didn't get halfway around the table before the 3 things that made everyone unique
We're all the same.
were not unique. Okay? So and they might do them better, right? And we talked about that. You might truly do them better. But if you do them better, you have to be able to explain why you do them better.
Right.
So, a bunch of people talked about staging, a bunch of people talked about photography, a bunch of people talked about, a whole bunch of things. Now I'm going to give away a secret. Hopefully the podcast world will appreciate this. If you're not telling a seller when you sit down with them that prior to you getting your first contract, you will review the contract with them. If you're not doing that, you are missing out.
Totally.
When you sit down with a seller, you need to say, "Mr. Seller, I know you said you're interviewing 98 other agents. Did any of those other agents mention to you that before you get your first contract, you and I are going to review that contract that we're most likely to get in this market? We're going to review that contract together so that we're focused on the terms instead of the conditions."
What great advice.
So
That's awesome advice.
So a seller at that point,
Yeah.
that's truly a differentiator.
Yeah.
So sitting at that table with these people, I said that nobody there did it. These were top teams in a very big market.
Yeah.
And so we went through the conversation, talked about it and everything. Everybody jotted it down. Somebody raised their hand, and I'm very glad that they raised their hand. Somebody said, "So Matt, do you mean to tell me that now I need to spend 2.5 or 3 hours reviewing a contract with every one of my listings?" And I said, "Great question. I'm so excited that you asked that, right? Because nobody else asked that." Absolutely take a minute to make a video of it. Absolutely take a minute so that you can send that video out afterward and say, "Hey, here's the contract that we're going to most likely be seeing in this marketplace. Here's the key things that we need to focus on. Here is a copy of the contract. I'm happy to answer any questions with you." After they sign the listing agreement, as part of your rollout of what your services are, that's whenever they get that information.
Yeah.
Say it at the table, and I promise it's a differentiator that a lot of other agents don't use. But now the secret's out, right? So
No, that's
now
good.
everybody's going to do it.
That's good action. All right. So Let's see here. We can. What I want to do is I want to do another podcast on, because we often get commission discussion
Oh, yeah.
type of things, but that in and of itself could be an hour-long conversation.
Easily.
So I don't even want to delve into that in
Easily.
this. Okay, so we've built the rapport. We've talked about the house, and I think that we've covered a majority of the actual listing presentation itself, right?
Yeah, yeah, and so everybody's going to kind of do some of that themselves too, right? Now
Yeah.
you kind of get into what it is that you do,
Yeah.
what your service rollout is.
And that's unique.
It is, and it should be. I
I'm
mean,
not going to give away my sauce. I'm not going to give away your sauce either.
That's right.
The key to when you're sitting down, everyone can go through the house and let the seller go through there, and everyone can jot notes down. But the key to sitting down at the table and building that rapport and showing them who you are and sealing that deal, truly, it's a personal thing.
100%.
Yeah. So I mean, there is a good bit of it factor when it comes to real estate, and sometimes you got it, and sometimes you got to learn.
Right. I agree.
I don't think that it's something that is necessarily innate to some people. I know some people are definitely better at it out the
Agreed.
gate, but it's something that you can work on, and it's something that in your office you should probably work on often with other agents in the office. Screw it up at the office.
Instead
Be
of
an
on the
idiot
public.
at the office.
Yep.
Look like a total dumbass in front of your colleagues. Don't do that in front of the seller, because you're going to get more appointments if you screw up. The more you practice, the more you understand what you're doing, the more you understand how you look in front of people, and that type of thing matters in the long run. So
Yeah. How you practice, how you perform, right?
Yeah.
So if you're there in the office and you're screwing stuff up, talking to people and everything, somebody else might have a great idea of how you can handle that better. The other part of this is so competency breeds confidence.
Mhm.
So the more prepared you are, the more competent you are, the more confident you're going to be when you sit down at the table.
Yeah.
They want someone that's confident.
Yeah.
Right. They don't want somebody that is falling apart at the table that is shaking whenever they go to pick up their glass of water because they're terrified because they don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
They don't want somebody that's getting stumped by simple questions.
Mhm.
If a seller throws a question at you, and you rear back and you knock that out of the park, and they thought that was the got you question, and you have an answer, you have a response that is an honest, thoughtful, intelligent response that helps them expand their understanding of what's going on, that's a huge win.
Yeah. Totally.
Not every time are you going to get the listing, but most of the time you are.
Yeah.
When they put that gotcha trap out there, and you can avoid that and help them understand why that's not really a gotcha trap for you,
Yeah.
that's a game changer.
Totally. All right, so towards the end of the appointment, obviously the inclination here is going to be, the best thing that you could possibly do at the end of the presentation is to get that listing agreement signed.
Agreed.
That's not going to happen every time. I hate to burst your bubble. There's going to be a lot of coaches out there that may look down on me for saying that. But truthfully, I'm the type of person who wants to make somebody feel comfortable. And if they need to sleep on it, or if they've already got an appointment with a listing agent the next day and they really want to hear them out, guess what? I'm going to make them feel comfortable by making myself feel comfortable and saying, hey, listen, I'm the resource here. I would be more than happy for you to entertain, more agents coming through, because I am that proud of the value that I add.
Right.
So I don't know that sticking somebody against the wall and making sure that they sign the listing agreement is the right way to go about it.
Yeah, I agree. And so an option that somebody has in that situation is if they say, Justin, I really love you and everything. I got 2 more people coming tomorrow. You can say, I'm more than happy to call them and cancel that appointment if you want.
Right. Yeah.
But here's my point and my reason behind that. If that's not who you are, that should not be part of what you do.
Yep.
Now, whenever I say if it's not who you are, if you're not anybody and you haven't established who you are, then maybe you should train and look at that and see if that's who you can become.
Yes.
But if you don't feel like deep down inside that goes completely against everything that you do, then absolutely do not spend the time on turning into that person.
Totally.
If you're not sure who you are, give it a shot, figure it out, see if it works, practice it, try it on. If it doesn't work, wonderful.
Yeah.
If you know for a fact that's not who you are, then don't spend the time doing that. But some people are very comfortable calling and saying, "Hey, I'm happy to cancel those other appointments for you," and they've got a nice way of saying it. They'll call up and say, "Hey, I talked to the Joneses yesterday, had a really good rapport with them. They did decide that they wanted to list with me. I know you might have some buyers that are available. I would love to cooperate with you however I can in helping that listing, get sold as quickly as possible."
Yeah.
So some agents aren't going to appreciate that. Good agents will. Good agents are going to be competitive about it, and they're going to file that away, right? But they're going to appreciate that. And the fun part of that is some people wanted to get the listing appointment because they said they had buyers.
Yeah.
Okay, so sometimes it's true,
That
sometimes
drives
it's
me
not.
crazy.
Right, but if it is true, you don't want to leave that stone unturned.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure the seller knows that if they pick you, you have an option of how to turn that stone over.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that you're really prepared to handle all of that with them.
Sure.
So, you talking about this, there's schools of thought on whether you need to be the first one in or the last one in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I think that goes back to how I talked about just a second ago, how you would approach canceling those other appointments or just say, "Hey, yeah, go through those appointments and I'll see you later." So depending on who you are and how you do your business makes all the difference in the world in what position you need to be in, first, middle, or last on those appointments. Okay, or first or last if there's only two.
Yeah.
But that goes into you exploring your business. That goes into you talking to people in the office and saying, "Okay, what works for you?" That
Right.
goes into you having role playing with people in the office. Go to a really successful team in your office or in another office or wherever, and talk to them about how they do it, and ask them. And then go ask another team.
Yeah.
Go ask 3 or 4 or 5 people. Go ask 3 or 4 team leaders.
See
Go
what
ask
fits
some
you.
coaches. Right. Ask us.
Yeah.
Right. We'll help you walk through what is the best way for you to deal with that based on who you are.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, "Oh, it always has to be the last person in there because you're if you're not a great closer." No.
Yeah.
You don't want to be the first one in.
Right.
Right. So knowing who you are is a big part of this, and the way that you get there is exactly what you hit on before. You have to be role playing.
Yeah.
You have to be having conversations. It gets your mind right. It allows you to feel competent. Builds your confidence.
Totally. All right. So whether or not you got the listing paperwork signed or they're interviewing somebody the next day, even before I go on that appointment, I already have my handwritten note written out
Perfect.
already, and
Love
it's
it.
already dated and stamped. If that listing appointment went terrible, or it's not somebody that I want to work with, or their price is unrealistic and it's just flat out I don't want the listing or I'm not getting the listing, then guess what? Shred the
Right.
thing, put it in the trash, no big deal.
Yep.
But if it goes well and you're competing for the listing, or you know for sure that you got it, put that bad boy in the mail as soon as you get back to the office, or on your way home it's already in your car.
Right.
Because sending that last little bit,
Great.
sometimes we always talk about that little extra 1%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Getting 1% better at things, and that little extra effort helps. I think that last little bit of handwritten note, "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Seller, thank you so much for your time today. I enjoyed going through your beautiful house. I sincerely look forward to selling it and moving you on to your next dream." Whatever they have told you about, I think it's just so important that you reiterate that in the note. But sending that last-ditch effort might make the difference, because they might be going 50-50 with you and another agent that they also really like. There's another agent in your market that's very likable, just like you. And what tipped the scales was your handwritten note that you wrote prior to going on the appointment. It's not hard. It takes you 2 minutes to do.
100% agree. Absolutely fantastic point. It puts on display who you are.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so that's listing appointments in a box. If you have more questions, and if any of these topics that we brought up spark questions, please send them to us, because we would love to do portions of podcasts or podcasts on certain things. Like, I know that we'll definitely get into a commission podcast
Absolutely.
for sure.
Have to. Price versus
Another
service.
one we're going to do is how to prepare your home to sell, and how you should be coaching your sellers on how to make their house ready for the market and stuff like that. But
And how you generate business by doing those things, even before you get to the appointment. Some of those so there's there's ways that you can leverage social media and stuff like that to get people to raise their hands so that you can have those conversations with them. We'll get into that whenever we talk about those topics.
thanks for tuning in, peeps.
As always, we love it. Hey guys, please like and subscribe.
Yeah.
If you get a chance, make sure you're sharing this with some other folks. Anybody that you think that this can help out, or one of the other clips or whatever. Let's get the word out about that.
Yeah, we're Facebook, YouTube, and we're going to be we're on iTunes. We're going to be uploading all that stuff. So there's plenty of mediums for everyone to go look at. Matt and I are both on Instagram, both on Facebook. So find us, share, like, comment.
Ask questions.
Appreciate you
we
guys.
absolutely love it. Peace.
See ya.